So I have an important update in the current lawsuits against the ATF and their pistol brace rule, including the nationwide injunction. So let's talk about what is now happening with the pistol brace cases. Now, real quick before we jump into this video, if you think it's time for all these unconstitutional ATF rules to be struck down, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. Also, I want to thank one of the main supporters of this channel, which is Blackout Coffee. Blackout Coffee has amazing coffee and they're huge Second Amendment supporters. They have dedicated roasts for organizations like FBC, GOA, SAF, and others, so they can file lawsuits like these cases here with the pistol braces. So if you want to get amazing coffee and support the two-way cause, check out Blackout Coffee. I will leave links to them down below in the details section and in the pinned comment. And if you use the code ARMSCHOLAR, you can get 10% off of your order. As I mentioned in the intro, I have an important update in the ATF pistol brace cases. The ATF is currently pushing for the Fifth Circuit to overrule multiple lower court decisions, which essentially block the enforcement of this rule. The ATF now argues that all those lower courts either got the analysis completely wrong, or that the lower courts issued injunctions which were too broad and beyond that lower court authority. The ATF has now called for oral arguments to take place in all of these consolidated cases, and they seek a reversal of all the limited injunctions that were issued in favor of the two-way organizations, and also they want a reversal of the nationwide injunction that is currently in place and is protecting people, maybe your ability to purchase, possess braces, use them on certain configurations without actually having to register them, go through the whole SBR process that the rule put in place. The nationwide injunction that was issued in Brito is currently in place. I know a lot of people have confusion about that, a lot of concerns about that. You know, there have been questions about whether or not you can purchase, possess, and use some of these items. Luckily, we have nationwide injunctions in place because of the Brito lawsuit, and then we have more limited injunctions for organizations and their memberships like the SAF case, the FBC case, and all of those, currently protecting the use, possession, and configurations of certain braced pistols. So that's currently in place, but the Fifth Circuit is going to review those cases, review those protections, and ultimately the ATF wants those removed. Oral arguments in all of these pistol brace cases are now set to take place, and tentatively they've been set for the week of August 5th. However, the Supreme Court's looming decisions in the Cargill bump stock case, the Rahimi possession case, which is the application of Bruin to certain issues involving the domestic violence restraining orders under federal law and a person's ability to purchase, use, possess firearms when they're subject to those federal laws. That's still set to be decided this month. And then also you have multiple Chevron deference cases, which are also huge and are also going to impact the application of certain ATF rules and other agency rules when it comes to the application of the Second Amendment, specifically here also pistol braces. Now, this is all significant. And like I said, we have a tentative oral argument schedule set, but a lot of things are going to change because of what the Supreme Court is set to decide in all those cases. Although the ATF has already lost once in the Fifth Circuit in that Mock v. Garland case, the ATF has decided that the lesser of evils to them was to appeal up to the Fifth Circuit and hope that they could get some sort of limitations on the nationwide injunction that was issued or on the more limited organizational injunctions that were also issued. Now, if you're not aware, recently in the Brito versus ATF case, Judge Matthew Kaczmarek issued a preliminary injunction which blocked the pistol brace rule in its entirety while this case proceeds forward towards a merits decision. The decision by Judge Kaczmarek actually springboarded off of a different decision by a different judge, Judge Reed O'Connor, in the Mock v. Garland case. So the orders that were issued in the Brito case and also in the Mock case are simply in place for a temporary period of time while this case proceeds forward towards a merits and final decision. Now, originally in the Mock v. Garland case, the Fifth Circuit reviewed that case, found that the original judge there, Judge O'Connor, should have granted an injunction. They issued some language saying that there was a likelihood of success on the merits in this lawsuit, send the case back down to Judge O'Connor for him to reevaluate, and ultimately when he reevaluated the case, he did find that yes, a preliminary injunction should have been granted, and so he granted a preliminary injunction which is protecting FBC, their members, and then also a couple of the companies that are named as plaintiffs in that lawsuit, which includes Tactical Machining. Mock was the first major brace win, and then again the Brito case sprungboard off of that and got the nationwide injunction. Now, of course, the ATF didn't like that, so they appealed once again up to the Fifth Circuit, asking for a reversal of all those decisions. The ATF now argues in their appeal that the Fifth Circuit should find that the lower courts were incorrect because the Brito case was incorrect in following what happened in Mock, and then some of these other lawsuits also should not have followed what Mock said in that ruling. The The ATF argues that the Brito District Court erred in relying on mock. Plaintiffs did not include a logical outgrowth claim in their complaint or their motion for a preliminary relief. To the contrary, they expressly waived any such claim even after this court's decision in mock. The district court's award of relief on that ground thus violates the fundamental principle of the courts normally deciding only questions presented by the parties. So in their briefs, the ATF claims that there was some sort of pleading issues, that there was some sort of motion issues in some of the language where mock cannot be used because mock was based on a logical outgrowth test, which that has more to do with preliminary injunctions and some of the procedural stuff that you don't need to know. But essentially the ATF is saying that there was some sort of errors in the other cases and how they were pled, so they can't rely on what the Fifth Circuit said in mock. The ATF then goes on to argue that even if the likelihood of success on the merits was present, they believe none of the parties can show that the pistol brace rule actually causes irreparable harm to the plaintiffs or to the public. The ATF essentially argues first that having to pay the NFA tax or go through the whole NFA process for your braced pistols, that is not an injury. They also tried to wiggle out of this whole injury claim by saying, well, we also waived the tax stamp. People didn't have to pay for the tax. Yes, they had to go through the process, but they didn't have to pay the tax, and therefore there is no injury. And finally, they also argue that the whole allegation that there was a violation of the Second Amendment is also not enough to prove an irreparable harm. The ATF argues that these types of firearms in these configurations are in fact short-barreled rifles in their eyes, and because they are short-barreled rifles, they claim that they are dangerous or unusual weapons. And one of the interesting things also here is the ATF continues to claim that the test is dangerous or unusual instead of the true conjunctive test, which is dangerous and unusual weapons. Now, again, some of the concerning things that are happening with this appeal is that the ATF is first trying to remove that nationwide injunction that was issued in Brito, and then also they're trying to remove the protections that were granted and issued to the two organizations and their memberships. And now all this is coming to a head, and oral arguments has now been tentatively set to take place during August 5th, or the week of August 5th. Now, with all of this, there are a few things to keep in mind. I know a lot of people are saying, well, August 5th now is going to be the date. I believe it's just the week of August 5th, but a lot of things can still change, primarily because of what is going on in the Supreme Court. One of the big reasons there could be a strong possibility of also the oral arguments being moved to a later date is the fact that we have looming decisions by the Supreme Court in the Cargill bump stock case. Again, what the Supreme Court does there will directly impact ATF overreach. So once that happens by the end of this term, which is end of June, early July, once Supreme Court issues that decision, you're going to see briefings submitted here in these pistol brace cases, in mock, and all these cases. And that because of that, these cases are likely going to be pushed out a little bit longer for oral arguments. So I don't anticipate really that oral argument date is necessarily going to stick because of what is going to happen in the Supreme Court. Also, keep in mind there are other cases that are currently looming for decisions. You then have the big 2A case, which is the Rahimi case, which deals with the application of the Second Amendment and Bruin towards some other issues about who are the people protected by the Second Amendment. And then finally, you also have other cases which deal with agency powers in general, which deal with primarily Chevron deference. You have the Loper Bright Enterprises cases and all of those cases which are going to deal with whether or not Chevron deference survives and goes forward as an actual legal, canon that can be used. So that's to say there's still a lot going on. The oral arguments in the brace cases have been tentatively selected, but I anticipate also because of these Supreme Court cases, a lot is going to change. So that's what's going on right now with the pistol brace issue. I wanted to update you guys. Tentatively, oral arguments have been set, but I do think some of those things are going to change because of what's going on in the Supreme Court. So if anything else develops, if anything else changes, I will let you guys know. Also, if you like this video and you like to support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm, and it signals to YouTube that you guys see value in these videos and in this type of 2A news. But as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and never forget this nation was built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.